Hi guys, I'm Megan, and welcome to another episode of There I Read It, where I'm reading Harry Potter books for the first time in my life. So if you're somebody who likes to leave comments, please make sure you keep those spoilers out because I literally don't know what's coming next. Anyways, today we're on chapter 10 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and that chapter is entitled The Mauraders Map. And even though this is a really iconic thing for the Harry Potter franchise, I had so much trouble with this chapter. It took me 2 weeks to read it. I couldn't get into it. I couldn't muster up the energy to care about it, and maybe I'm just depressed. But it really wasn't until the end of the chapter where they started covering more stuff on Sirius Black where I kind of perked up and had interest again. But yeah, I trudged through this chapter so slowly and I had to fight with myself to finish it. But I do have a decent amount of notes, so let's jump right into talking about those. Now, so far there have been 2 Grimm sightings and 2 nearly fatal accidents for Harry. So obviously, if we haven't put it together up until now, the Grimms mean danger. But Harry does feel really frustrated because nobody else seems to collapse when the Dementors come in. And then I suspected, but the book finally confirms that the screaming Harry hears with the Dementors around is his mother. And I didn't specify in my notes, but I think they're in potions class and Draco's arm is all better, which of course it is because now the Slytherin team can't use an excuse to keep delaying matches. So now that Gryffindor has lost to the Hufflepuff team, it's just like, oh, look at my arm, it's so fanciful and great. And then Ron ends up losing 50 points for Gryffindor for hitting Malfoy with a croc heart. But Snape never really specifies the reasoning behind his points very much, so I don't know if it's minus 50 points for assault or minus 50 points for wasting classroom materials, or maybe a combination of both. Then when they see Professor Lupin, he is noted as being thinner with bags under his eyes, and it's mentioned that the Whomping Willow was planted during Lupin's first year at Hogwarts, and somebody named Davy Gudgeon almost lost his eye because of that tree. That tree seems like such an unnecessary hazard. Why do they keep it? It would be like an elementary school having an electrified fence around the playground. I mean, yeah, that's going to keep people out, but it's also going to kill any of the kids who accidentally touch it. And it gets explained, which I thought was kind of obvious, but maybe other people didn't see it as obviously, that because Harry's past is so dark, that's what makes the Dementors worse for him. And humans cannot see Dementors, but they can be affected by them because Dementors eat joy, and they will also drain wizards of their magic over time, which is interesting when you think about their use in Azkaban. And in particular, with all the stuff going on with Sirius Black, and they're all so afraid of him and they want to catch him, would he really even be that dangerous after spending, 12 years in Azkaban? You would think after that much time, any magic that Black did have would have been sucked out of him at this point. And Harry says he wants to learn how to resist the Dementors like most other people can do, and Lupin says he's going to teach him, but they don't actually get to that in this chapter, so it's just kind of a foreshadowing thing. There's no payoff for it yet, but hopefully soon. But I swear to you, if resisting Dementors is like taking some kind of Percocet, I'm gonna lose my mind. That would be just way too on the nose for a depression metaphor, but I would kind of respect it if they did that. Anyways, Quidditch is still going on in the background, and those Ravenclaws that we've still really not seen much of in the entire series end up defeating the Hufflepuff team, which means Gryffindor can still make the finals if they don't lose any other matches. And it's getting up to be Christmas break now, but Ron and Hermione are both making up excuses to stay at Hogwarts. And Ron's excuse is that he can't stand to be around Percy, and Hermione's like, I need to read in the library. But Harry's already put it together that they don't really need to do these things, they just want an excuse to stay with Harry for Christmas, and he's a little bit grateful for that. It's always nice to see Harry be grateful for anything really, because he's always so entitled, in my opinion, from what I see from him in the book. And maybe that's because I saw the movies first, and the movies really polish up Harry to be more godlike and and perfect. But Harry in the books is very legit to how a kid his age would act, and it's very self-centered and self-serving and a little bit maddening to read as an adult. Or I guess I should say an adult with children who are Harry's age or older. Because, you know, they see things one way and you're like, that's not what the situation is at all. You know, it's not like I'm withholding my riches from you just because I don't want you to do this or that. You know, sometimes we don't have the funds. By the way, like, subscribe, and share. Help me get more funds for weird kid stuff. But since it's the end of the term, they're going to have another trip going into Hogsmeade. I almost forgot the name of the place for a second. And Hermione's like, oh, I'm gonna go into Honeydukes and get these tooth flossing string mints for my parents. And I honestly cannot remember if this has been said yet or not, but I know previously that Hermione's parents are dentists. And sorry for the spoiler if you're reading along with me for the first time, but it's very trivial for a spoiler, so hopefully it's not very upsetting for you. And since Harry's broom got completely destroyed by the Whomping Willow, Harry is now borrowing an old, jerky, slow shooting star broom for when he's in Quidditch practice. And he knows that broom just won't do. He's thinking about getting another one as soon as he can. And of course, the next chapter is called, like, the Firebolt, so I'm pretty sure he's going to get that broom he was eyeballing before. But man, there's a lot of disparaging remarks about the shooting star branded brooms. I hope that it's like some old, out-of-business company, because otherwise they are not making a very quality product, even though none of this is real and it doesn't matter anyways. But everybody except for Harry takes off to go to Hogsmeade because of course Harry doesn't have the permission slip, so he's gotta stay behind at the castle. And then Fred and George waltz in and they bequeath Harry with their secret to success. And they lay out this square blank piece of parchment, and Fred and George are like, no, this isn't some run-of-the-mill piece of scrap paper. We got this out of Filch's office in a box where he confiscates stuff from students. And when you tap your wand to the paper saying, I solemnly swear that I am up to no good, a map appears. Now, what did strike me as interesting about this chapter is usually the title of the chapter is something that happens in the last page or two. But this is like the middle of the chapter and we have the Marauders Map in the chapter entitled The Marauders Map. So that's kind of a welcome change of pace. You know, you start building up an anticipation in your head and then it doesn't come to fruition. So you read these chapter titles and you're not really sure what to expect, because it's kind of like watching a TV show, and especially a drama, where you get to that last 30 seconds and then all of a sudden, here's a big cliffhanger. That's what these chapters feel like to me, and I guess if I were just reading it normally, it wouldn't be a big deal because I could just keep reading. But because I'm taking notes and I'm doing this podcast style vlog chapter by chapter, I'm very strict with myself to not read ahead. And you know, for better or for worse, I kind of like doing it that way because it's interesting how things change and your opinion remolds over different things, such as the Dursleys. I still think that they have a lot more to their story than they're saying, but they are definitely a lot less tolerable in book 3 than they are in book 2, and a lot less tolerable in book 2 than they are in book 1. So even only being 2.5 books in, I still go back and hear what I said for chapter 1 or 2 of the first book, and it's cringy. And I like that it's cringy because it shows growth, but other people are so offended at what I said back in chapter 1 and 2 of Sorcerer's Stone that they don't want to hear anymore. And that's fine, different strokes for different folks and all, but you know, that's why I like doing it this way. Anyways, back to the actual notes for this chapter. The map is made by Messrs. Mooney, and I'm not sure if MESSRS is a name or if that is like a title for somebody who's mischievous, but we have Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs that made the Marauders Map. And it doesn't just show the whole map of Hogwarts, but it also shows the location of everyone, even Peeves, who isn't alive. Plus, it throws in all these secret passages that even a lot of the staff and faculty don't know about. But the trick of the map is if you don't want anybody else to see what's on it, you have to tap it with your wand again and say mischief managed. Otherwise, a teacher or a student that you might not want to know certain things can just walk up and see where people are and where the secret tunnels tunnels are and all that stuff. And Harry takes the map, but then he starts thinking about Arthur's warning from the Chamber of Secrets, where he's going, Jenny, didn't I tell you not to trust something that thinks for itself if you can't see where it keeps its brain? And I like that callback because I thought that that was not only a weird thing to say, but such a good life lesson to take in. I feel like my phone and I are getting into a toxic relationship and I don't know where it keeps its brain, so maybe we need to separate a little bit. And I have not seen the movie for Prisoner of Azkaban since it was new, but I do not recall the map showing little like figures of people, little drawings of people. And in the book, Harry can see not just where people are, but what they're doing. So he knows that Mrs. Norris stops to sniff something. And when Harry is kind of slow to figure something out, the map tells him to say dis Indium, and that opens up a witch statue which has a secret tunnel that takes you into the basement of Honeydukes. And the tunnel just goes on forever, and then it's really hard to get out of the door at first, but Harry gets there, he gets upstairs into the store, and it is just packed. And somehow, even though there seems to be hundreds of kids shopping right now, Harry finds Ron and Hermione with zero effort. They're just on the other side of Honeydukes looking at the weird flavor section. And there's a sign that says, because Sirius Black is on the loose, Dementors are going to come through at nightfall, so you're best advised to be out of all of Hogsmeade before nightfall. And I feel like that's going to come back to bite Harry in the butt, but I guess we'll see. Anyways, though, the trio ends up going for butterbeer at the Three Broomsticks, and that is served by somebody called Madame Rosmerta. And while Ron, Harry, and Hermione are sitting there drinking their butterbeers, warming up, Flitwick, McGonagall, Hagrid, and Cornelius Fudge enter. And the way it's written, it feels like one of those bad old jokes. Flitwick, McGonagall, Hagrid, and Cornelius Fudge enter a bar. But Harry, not being allowed to be in Hogsmeade, is a little bit panicked that all of these important people are walking in. So Hermione uses Mobiliarbus and places the big Christmas tree right in front of their table. But just to be safe, Harry is hiding under the table for whatever good that does. If anybody were to see them and walk up to that table, Harry would definitely be screwed, but it worked out, I guess. And something that they mentioned that I don't think I caught on to before, Flitwick is tiny. Maybe it was something I just read over too fast and missed it, but I never saw him as a smaller person before, so that's probably why I never recognized him in the movies. Because I remember when I did the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone book versus movie, I was like, oh, well, I'm really sad that, you know, this list of professors aren't seen in the movie, and they're like, Flitwick is there? And I was just thinking, who? Who was he? Where did I miss him? Well, my ableist behind just thought I was looking for a regular-sized dude and didn't even think about it. So, now I know better, I guess. Anyways, Rosmerta comes over and she starts chatting with everybody, and she's like, oh, Sirius Black was such a good kid. He was BFFs with James Potter. And that's about the time where my ears kind of perked up for this chapter. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I'm interested. And of course, you could already infer some of these things, but it was just kind of to get that final confirmation of, oh yeah, Black wasn't just Harry's godfather, so obviously he had a good relationship with the Potters, but he was James's best friend. And then they start explaining the Fidelius Charm, which I will openly admit I had a little bit of trouble processing it. It was a really weird thing. But from what I understood, James and Lily Potter were openly against the Dark Lord, and that made him upset. Wait, is Voldemort the Dark Lord? Did I just call him Satan? This is why I just say Voldemort. But anyways, Voldemort was aware that James Potter was against him, so they needed to go into hiding. And to do that, they used the Fidelius Charm, which meant one person would have their secret, their, whereabouts, however you would want to phrase that, hidden inside of them, and as long as that secret keeper didn't spill the beans, Voldemort would never be able to find James and Lily Potter. Like they said, even if Voldemort was in the same town and he was looking right in their window, he wouldn't be able to tell that they're there. So the Fidelius Charm seems to be a pretty complex cloaking piece of magic. I wanted to say device, but that's not right. And the intent was that this charm was going to keep the Potters completely safe because, again, unless the secret keeper directly said, hey, they're over there, then nobody could ever find out that secret. And of course, course, with Black and Potter being best friends, they picked him to be the secret keeper, and he is said to have told Voldemort where they were within 1 week. So if this is to be believed, then Black just went, "Are they gone? Okay, they're gone. This is exactly where they are, Voldy." But because that's being spoon-fed to us so blatantly, I feel like it's going to be another Scooby-Doo thing where, hey, we got you looking left so that we could surprise you on the right. But Black told Voldemort showed up and killed the adult Potters, and then Hagrid came in to get baby Harry because Dumbledore told him to do that. And when he was there, Black showed up. And Hagrid's getting really upset recalling this memory because he's going, I didn't even think about why he was there. It never crossed my mind that he betrayed them. I thought he just heard about the news and came because he was so upset and wanted to help. And this is pretty much going on in tandem with the first chapter of the very first book, because this is where Hagrid borrows the flying motorcycle. And apparently Sirius Black wanted to take baby Harry, said, give him to me. I'm his godfather. I should have him. And Hagrid said, no, I'm here on orders from Dumbledore, so I'm going to do exactly what I was told. And then at that point, which feels a little bit strange and unnatural, Black was like, well, here, take my beloved flying motorcycle. I won't need it anymore. That's the kind of behavior that you would expect to see out of somebody who is going to jail or they expect to die very soon. It's not typical for a person to say, here's something I treasure, but now you take it, I don't want it. So again, that's kind of a red flag that this is not such a black and white story like it seems. There is a lot more to this that we don't know. Then the name Peter Pettigrew starts coming up, and Peter was a mutual friend of both Black and Potter, and Pettigrew is the one who caught Black before the Ministry of Magic could get there. And that's where Sirius Black kills all those people. According to Muggle witnesses, Black blew up Peter Pettigrew, just blew him to smithereens, and a bunch of other people got killed in that blast. There was a whole crater that got created. And it took 20 people from the Ministry to take Black into custody. And apparently the Ministry has, and this is concerning for a few different reasons, they have trained hit wizards from the Magical Law Enforcement Squad. I mean, can you even imagine, what if the Ministry went corrupt, in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I mean, just the fact that they have hit wizards and they are now a canon thing in this universe is crazy! And I really want to meet some and know more about them because that is an insane job. But anyways, Sirius Black is caught, he's taken to Azkaban, and Peter Pettigrew got Order of the Merlin First Class because of his bravery that led to his death. So Pettigrew didn't actually get the award himself. It's sort of an in memorandum title to make his family feel good. Okay, your son died, but he didn't die for anything. We want to recognize what he did, that type of a thing. And what really makes Fudge uncomfortable is that Sirius Black is very normal and calm in Azkaban, because I guess Fudge has to go in there every so often and inspect the place, and he would just talk to Black nothing. Nothing was wrong. He wasn't in jail. He wasn't being tortured every day. And that's kind of the end of the chapter. Harry is very aware that he needs to start trudging through that tunnel if he wants to get back to school in time. But I did want to say, it occurred to me after seeing that sign in Honeydukes that the first time Sirius Black got into Hogwarts was right after the first trip to Hogsmeade. And I kind of doubt that he's using the tunnels because the tunnels don't seem to be a very well-known thing. I mean, it's possible, but it is really weird timing because if Black does know about the tunnels, then he could come in and out of Hogwarts at any time he pleases. He doesn't have to have any connection specifically. However, for Black to appear in the Gryffindor Tower the same time that all these kids went to Hogsmeade, it more so suggests that he's able to follow the students into the building somehow. Although, considering the Dementors can see through disguises and charms and things like that, I'm not sure how that would work. I know shape-shifting could be an option because of course they take transfiguration classes. So I would imagine that every wizard knows how to transfigurate themselves into something else, but would that be enough to keep the Dementors from seeing through that? Like, is turning yourself into a cat enough to hide? Maybe it's a combination of the two. Maybe the students coming in and out of Hogwarts is very distracting for the Dementors, so he's sort of hidden in plain sight in that way because there's just too many kids to sort through them all. Or maybe if Black is shape-shifting in some way, he's able to use the more common tunnels and then nobody would really notice it. Because it is at least fairly obvious that the Dementors cannot see into the tunnel. I'm sure if they were in the tunnel, they could see everything just fine, but they don't seem to have any kind of power to see through the terrain. So maybe that's something to what's happening, is that instead of Dementors guarding the tunnels, there's Filch, and Filch wouldn't necessarily bat an eye if like a rat or a bat or something came through that tunnel. It's probably pretty common. But I feel like it's got to be one of those two things. He's either transforming and hiding with the students as they enter Hogwarts, or he is transforming into a completely weird kind of animal and just slipping through in the tunnels. But remember, don't spoil it for me because I'm currently still reading. Hopefully by the time you guys see this though, I'll be at least in book 4. I try to give myself a nice big buffer, but if this chapter is any hint on how future chapters are going to go, I'm going to be really slowing down and eating up a lot of my buffer time in the near future. So just as always, if you have spoilers, be respectful of people who are reading for the first time with me and keep them to yourself. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching me ramble on, and I will see you in chapter 11. Bye! Well, Fanily members, we're almost done, but I want to invite you to hang out with me in some other places. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as my own personal self, and I have a Facebook page too, but I mostly just post photos over there. And sometimes people say, "Hey McGann, I want to mail you something. How do I do that?" Easy. Just click the About tab on my channel page, and my most current P.O. Box info will be right there. I also run another channel, The Fanily. It's really a hodgepodge channel where we might post anything. Oh yeah, and I also sell shirts and stickers and stuff with the Fanily and the Fangirl logos. If that is your cup of tea, I have a link in every description of every video. Finally, if you want to help out the Fangirl channel and make sure I'm putting out video essays for years to come, the best way you can help is by subscribing and watching more of my videos, whether they're new, old, whatever. Maybe even share one or two on social media, help spread the word. People who watch to the end of videos like you helps to tell the site, hey, this is a good video, we should recommend it to other people. So if you made it this far, leave me a comment of something like, hey, I made it to the end. Love ya. See you next time, Fanily members. Bye.